Now, I know that it's a slot antenna, and explain to us about a slot antenna. That's something you don't hear a lot about. So explain to us what's going on with that.
No, hams are not familiar with slot antennas, despite the fact that they're pretty widely used in the radio world. I sent you a couple of pictures. But I have some of them here too. For example, right here, this is there's one. There's the antenna itself. But coax, what's that? I don't recognize that picture.
Ours. There you go.
Okay, the slot antenna is a hole, a thin rectangular hole cut in a large metal plane. Now, it just doesn't make sense that that could be an antenna. But the truth about it is that it can't be. The RF currents run around the slot, which is a resonant length, and the currents right at the edge of the slot actually act just like a dipole, except for one very critical factor. Polarization is rotated 90 degrees. So,
John, what we're looking at there, that's actually, you took a saw and cut that slot in there, those two, we can see the shield and the center. It looked like they would be shorted together because they're on a piece of metal, but they have that slot in between them, and so they resonate. Is that true?
Yes, that's a resonant slot in between there, and it's 39 inches long. Anybody on 2 meters should recognize 39 inches, twice 19, and it's just like a dipole. It's 39 inches. Because it's on that dish, it has to be bent down. The dish is not quite big enough. Ideally, it would be straight, but that's very little. It's not very different. There's the feed point of the antenna, just simple coax with a couple of terminals on the end.
And that's bolted right to the dish. That's really cool. I was amazed at the SWR value of it. Now, that one, we'll hold that for a second. That's one on your roof. That's just a flat plane, correct?
Yeah, that's making a slot on a simple piece of galvanized steel. The fixture that's driving it is magnetic, so it can be moved. That was during the testing procedure. Normally, that would be replaced by screws. And it's tuned by that piece of aluminum tape at the end to change the length of the slot. Slot changes frequency just like a dipole by changing its length.
Isn't that something? That's really something. There's a balun that you make. That's important, I'm sure.
Well, it's not absolutely mandatory. That's a duplexer, but a balun is useful pretty much on any antenna, and I include it. Now, this is a slot on the back of my truck. You can make them out of any metal plane. This is aluminum tape stuck to the back window of my truck, and it works just like a vertical dipole. But there's one important point here. A horizontal dipole a slot is vertically polarized. That may fly right in the face of most hams, but it is. It's vertically polarized, and that's why they work well with the repeaters, which need vertical polarization, and why the slot in the dish is horizontal.
Isn't that something? Well, I noted that they use a lot of slot antennas on airplanes because they can cut you actually have to take a saw and cut a slot in the metal, and that is what you see on some of these airplanes if you really get up close to them. And I see them used on TV towers. I guess we've all seen that, and that's kind of interesting. TV towers that are maybe 1,000 foot tall, the antenna is a round tube that looks at maybe 50, 100 foot tall, but it's vertical with the slot, but that gives you a horizontal pattern, which television is. Is that right?
That's correct. Here's a picture of a TV slot, and you can see it's a vertical waveguide with a slot cut down the length of it, but the pattern is horizontal, even though the slot is vertical. That's the unique quality of a slot antenna.
That's pretty slick. How long have you had this satellite dish working?
Well, I changed things so rapidly, but it was up for quite a while. The one that's currently working is that straight linear one, just made out of a piece of roofing flashing. That's the one I use regularly. But I have another, yeah, this one right here. That's very simple. That's just a piece of bent metal galvanized steel, and this one is a quarter wave. The other one's a half wave. And they work both in quarter. This one is an interesting one. The slide is the space between that little partial cylinder and that sheet at the base. And but it works exactly the same. These are great for the top of RVs because you're not going to knock one of these off riding by on a tree. And you don't need a metal ground plane under this one. It works without the ground plane. It's self-contained.
That is pretty amazing. Super stuff. Well, we're so happy to know about this slot antenna, and it gives us something to ponder and go read about, because you don't hear much about it. When I saw that in QST, I said, aha, because I've heard about slot antennas, but nobody's ever explained it to me, and this is my 60th year in this hobby, and I thought, wow, John's the guy, because you're doing this. Now imagine you make your neighbors real happy because you don't have any dipoles stuck up or anything. They just think you're watching TV. So I guess that's kind of funny, isn't it, when you tell people you worked them on my satellite dish.
Well, living in a small mobile home, which I have for a long time and like, and you got to convince the neighbors, because the CCNRs, the Gestapo that runs the main office, doesn't like any kind of antennas. But they don't know I've got antennas, and I've got them all over this place, and in many forms, actually.
That's great. And I guess you could probably slot the top of a flagpole, right?
Sure, but it needs to be a little bigger in diameter. I don't think you could make a good 2-meter slot the diameter of a flagpole, but slots can be cut in almost any metal surface. Even a mirror. I sent you a picture of an interesting one of a mirror, for example, which I etched off a bit of the back. What's on the back of a mirror? Silver, aluminum coated, and you cut a slot in that, and it works fine. I think I have a picture of that one here someplace. Yeah, here it is, right here. This is a mirror, one of those typical long ones you put on the door to dress by, and then you can see the slot under my decorative name on there. It's just etched on there with drain cleaner.
You don't. Oh, cool. Well, we'll have to have you back more often, because it sounds like you have a lot of things you do, and I like things that are kind of out there and makes us think, and it's stuff that's not just run of the mill. So I really appreciate your time. Anything else you should leave us with, like make sure you don't cut your fingers off with the saw or stuff like that when you're cutting a satellite dish?
I think most hams are wise enough to that, though. Sometimes the readers surprise me on how little they know, but ham radio is a learning process.
It is. How long have you been licensed, John?
52 years.
52. All right. And I'm sure, like it's the best hobby in the world, and it already has ended several, or has been the start of a couple of my careers, and we continue looking on beyond this. And I appreciate you doing some of these articles. You do some really great writing. So stay in touch with us and let us know what we can be doing to have more fun here on Ham Radio, okay?
I'll be happy to contribute. I have lots of things I can show you.
Okay, we will have you back. You all heard that, so okay. Well, thanks for joining us, John, and we'll be looking for you on 2 meters with your satellite dish.
It'll be a pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. I wonder if